Hello everyone, and welcome back to a brand new edition of Daily to Dynasty, your one-stop shop for all things fantasy football. I'm your host, Craig Gorbanoff, alongside Rich Wilhelm, John Hazlett, and Marcus Taylor. Back again for a brand new edition of Daily to Dynasty. If you like this show, make sure to like and subscribe on whatever platform you're watching or listening to this thing. There's a lot of ways to find the podcast, whether that's YouTube, iTunes, Spotify, Pocket Casts, or the kind of homepage for this show, anchor.fm/daily to dynasty. It's a great way to interact with us. You can leave us a voicemail and have all kinds of interaction with this show. And we will play that on a later show and interact and answer your live fantasy questions. So a great way to get involved with the show. Again, that link, anchor.fm/daily to dynasty. And of course, you can interact with us on social media. You can follow the show at Daily to Dynasty. You can follow me at cgorbs94. You can follow Rich at Coda522. You can follow John at John Hazlett475. And you can follow Marcus at EMTaylor29. And we're starting this show off in the single camera because we're going to do a very special edition. We're finally going to get into this mock draft that we've been talking about for the last few weeks. But before we do that, a little bit of business to attend to. If you love underdog stories, you'll of course love our friends at the Underdog newsletter. Every week they sift through hundreds of articles, videos, and podcast interviews. And then every Tuesday morning they send out a bite-sized rundown of only the best stories you can find all in one place. Subscribe to the newsletter at jokermag.com/newsletter and follow them on Twitter at jokermaghq. And of course, at the time of recording this podcast, it is officially 1 month to the NFL season. We would like to announce our brand new partnership with Thrive Fantasy. Actually, we announced this last week, but if you didn't listen, you're getting the first announcement. Thrive Fantasy is a daily fantasy sports app for player prop bets. So, they've eliminated the need to do countless hours of research because they only ask you about the top tier athletes in a respective sport. So, with the NFL season only a month away, you're going to want to get in on this app. Thrive has prop bets for almost every single sport, and each prop has a fantasy point total associated with the over or under based on its likelihood to occur. The more points a selection is worth, the riskier it is. You can rack up the most points to win a share of the prize pool. Thrive has awarded over $1.3 million in prizes since launching in 2018. Use the promo code DAILY2DYNASTY, all spelled out, all in caps, when you sign up today, and you will receive an instant $20 bonus on your first deposit of $20 or more. So deposit 20, bet with 40. Download Thrive Fantasy on the App Store or Play Store, or by visiting their website, www.thrivefantasy.com. And now we're going to get off of this solo shot. Welcome in Rich and John, who are on video. Marcus is here via audio. So for anyone on YouTube, you'll have to wait till next week to look at Marcus's pretty face. But how's it going, guys? What's new in your lives this week? Has it been a good week? I feel like my week's been fun. It was my birthday last weekend, and I haven't taken down my decorations yet. So it's very festive. What's going on with you guys?
Well, I mean, I didn't get a birthday gift this week, so I mean, you have a better week than I did. But everything's going well. No complaints on my end.
Same over here.
Same here, just hanging in.
Just hanging out, and getting ready for the NFL season. A couple of quick NFL updates, and then we will finally get into this mock draft that I feel like we've been talking about since the inception of this show. The first bit of news is COVID-19 related, and of course here in the COVID-19 era. So 109,000 people were tested, and only 0.46% were positive. So under 0.5% tested positive for COVID-19. 1 month today, the return. So very exciting stuff for the NFL season. Right? All of these tests are happening. Everyone's going to be negative, and we're going to get a football season. That's fingers crossed, knock on wood, so we don't, we don't create a Kanahura, as my dad likes to say. Listen, I got to get Papa Gorbs in here every once in a while.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
The second bit of news, and this just broke about a few hours before our recording, Tight ends George Kittle and Travis Kelce got some monster contracts. Rich, why don't you break those down for us?
So Travis Kelce got a 4-year, $57 million extension, and George Kittle got a 5-year, $75 million extension. They reset the entire tight end market, and for good reason. They're the two most excitable? No. They're the two most exciting tight ends in the NFL. Those guys battling every year to see who's better. I love the signings. I think it's, two great players to stay on their teams and grow with their quarterbacks. So, worth it for sure.
Worth every penny, for sure. Two studs at the tight end position. I wonder where they're going to go in our mock draft this evening. And without further ado, let's bring up our mock draft screen here. And as you'll kind of notice, we're using the Sleeper Bot app, I guess we'll call it. It is the web interface, though. It's a cooler new app. This is my first season using it. Rich, I know you have some experience using it before. I'm a fan of the fact that you can use dark theme. I'm a dark theme everything kind of guy, so that it's got going for me. I will be selecting number 1 overall. I don't know how I got so lucky. Rich asked, do you want to be 1? I said, sure. So this is how the draft order came together. Marcus is going to be selecting at number 4. Rich is going to be selecting at number 8. And John will be selecting at number 12. The computer will be taking care of the rest of it. We will not be doing every single team. We'll provide some commentary between the picks and kind of what we're thinking about live during this mock draft. So before we get started, any last thoughts before we go to war, gentlemen?
If you don't pick McCaffrey, you're wrong.
I second that.
Well, it's no secret, guys, that I am like the world's biggest Christian McCaffrey fan. So the fact that I need to be number 1 to get him is no problem at all. This is Christian McCaffrey all day. So, guys, I think I'm just going to go ahead and start this draft.
All right.
If you guys should have probably all seen that. I have 5 minutes on the clock, and I did just give away my pick, Christian McCaffrey, of course. There was some debate last week we had between Ezekiel Elliott and McCaffrey when Mark was on the show here. But for me, this is really just a no-brainer. It's Christian McCaffrey. So Marcus is now on the clock. Saquon Barkley was selected at 2. Dalvin Cook selected at 3. And Marcus, you're here now on the clock. What's your thought process like?
So my thought process is I want to take a running back. There's not that many premier running backs that's going to be available later. So I want to take one now. Ezekiel Elliott is still on the board, but I'm leaning more towards Clyde Edwards just for the fact that I think the Kansas City offense is going to be extremely potent this year, and he's going to have a heavy workload. Cowboys have a lot of receivers. Although they have Zeke, they have a ton of receivers. They're trying to have 3 with 1,000 yards. And I just think Clyde Edwards is going to be a heavy part of that offense. So he's going to be my selection with this pick.
And I find that to be kind of interesting, but I was doing a mock the other night, and I took Clyde Edwards at like number 5 or 6. So not the craziest thing I've ever heard of either. I'm realizing I should probably zoom in a little bit on the draft board so people can see. But after Clyde Edwards went Ezekiel Elliott at 5, Michael Thomas at 6, the first wide receiver off the board, and Alvin Kamara at 7. Rich, I know you have an affinity for all things New Orleans Saints. Did those last 2 picks alter your strategy at all?
I mean, at this pick, I was going running back just based on how I got burned last year by picking Michael Thomas early on. I probably would have taken Alvin Kamara if he didn't go right before me. And now I got a hard choice. Do I take the workhorse from last year from Tennessee and Derrick Henry? Do I take a younger guy in Jacobs? Or do I, or Miles Sanders? I'm looking at Mixon as well. There's a lot of good running backs here at 8. But I'm gonna stay on the hype train. I'm gonna hope that Tennessee drives Derrick Henry into the ground, and I'm gonna be on that train. I'm going Derrick Henry at number 8.
And I love that pick. I'm a big Derrick Henry fan. I was doing a mock last night where Derrick Henry didn't go until John's pick at 12, and I was very baffled and confused. And I also had picked prior to that pick and didn't understand how I didn't see Derrick Henry, because I think he is for sure a top 8 pick. I'm surprised he actually fell to you at number 8. Following Derrick Henry, Joe Mixon was drafted at 9, the running back from Cincinnati. Devontae Adams, the second wide receiver off the board. I think it's kind of interesting. I don't know if I have him as the second fantasy wide receiver. Kenyon Drake was taken next, which I think is a bit of a reach at 11. And John, the pick is yours. What is your thought with how this first round kind of played out, and where are your eyes lingering to of who's available?
Well, as far as the players that are gone before me, it's pretty much what I expected. Maybe not in the slot I expected, but the guy I was actually going to target here was going to be Joe Mixon, so he's gone. So I'm going to go to who I would have taken with my next pick, which is the actual next pick, and I'm going to go with Miles Sanders here. It's no secret that I've got a little bit of a man crush on Miles. I've picked him to do some good things, and I think he'll continue to do so, and I'll be the benefactor of that.
And, I'm realizing, I don't know if I set this to snake or not, but if it does snake, and you, in fact, get the pick following this, what is your strategy?
Well, if I can make there we go.
There we go.
So it did, in fact, snake,
snake.
So you were still on the clock, which is what I intended to do. I think most drafts snake at this point. You and I kind of share this with having the back-to-back pick, me being first, you being the last pick of the first round. I really love it. A lot of people I know hate it. What's your kind of opinion of getting the back-to-back pick?
I don't hate it at all. I actually like it. So to me, I like picking back-to-back. So 12 doesn't really bother me. It gets boring in a real draft, when you're waiting, basically 23 other picks to get back to you. But I like going one after another almost all the time.
Yeah,
so
I think you get to really dictate the pace of the draft.
Totally, you totally do. And I'll tell you, there's still a lot of good players on the board. I mean, I could very easily go running back here. Nick Chubb is out there. I don't love Nick Chubb the way that Rich does. But, do I want to leave him for Rich to come back to? I'm not sure. I'm looking at I'm looking at 3 of the top 5 wide receivers, basically, in my mind anyway, with Hill, Jones, and Hopkins. Part of me really wants to go Hill. I just think Hopkins is going to have an absolute ridiculous year in that offense, so I'm actually going to go him here.
I love that pick for you, John. I don't know what I was praying that he could make it all the way to me. I think it's an impossible ask, but I love DeAndre Hopkins this year. Following the Hopkins pick, Josh Jacobs was selected from the Las Vegas Raiders, Tyreek Hill, and then Austin Eckler, which brings Rich on to the clock. Rich, kind of dissect how the second round has started and how it's maybe impact some of your thinking.
I mean, I'm surprised that Eckler went before Chubb and Jones as far as the computer goes. I mean, everything else makes sense. Hopkins obviously was a great pick. You have Miles Sanders and Hopkins. You got that wide receiver running back combo that you love. I think Josh Jacobs is going to be huge for the Raiders. I mean, he's pretty much the entire team. If you look at that roster, it's him and Waller versus the world. Tyreek Hill and Devontae Adams for the computer. I mean, that's a powerful combination. It's just, obviously the running backs are probably going to be suffering a little bit. And then Joe Mixon and Eckler, solid running back combination. So I have a choice now between Julio and Nick Chubb.
No, you don't. We all know who you're taking.
I don't think you do. So I love Julio Jones just as much as I love Nick Chubb. And just to make it spicy, I think I have to actually go with Julio here. Just because Kareem Hunt he's making me a little nervous. He could take some carries away. John keeps saying he's going to be the goal line guy. Julio catches everything that's thrown at him. Matt Ryan is, he doesn't have a lot of years left. It's going to be a farewell tour for both of them. And I get a running back and a wide receiver that are premier. I'm going Julio Jones.
I'm pretty surprised by that, honestly. Nick Chubb, the following pick, Travis Kelce, and then Patty Mahomes. I personally avoid Julio Jones. After a couple years ago, I took him with like one of my first or maybe second round picks. I can't quite remember, and just no touchdowns. I feel like he's allergic to the end zone. I don't know if he's shaken that off, but that's like whatever I equate Julio Jones is allergic to the end zone. But he's a monster player, especially in PPR like this is set to. I mean, he's going to get a ton of targets. He's going to get you a ridiculous amount of points. So I commend the pick. Makis is on the board now with 4:20 on the clock. What's going on? What's in your head?
Just about Julio Jones real quick. I know this guy. He picked Julio in fantasy. And last season, and every Monday I would talk to him, he would be pissed off because Julio would give him a bunch of catches, a bunch of yards, but no touchdowns. And he was so angry.
It's a PPR league. PPR league. Give me 9 catches, give me 60 yards, that's 15 points. I'm happy.
He was always ready to drop him or trade him. He was so frustrated with the lack of touchdowns. And I would be like, just keep him. And every week it'd be like no touchdowns. But and then I had Calvin Ridley, and he would score like 3 touchdowns in the game. But anyway,
not this year.
For my pick, I see that Aaron Jones is still on the board. He's going to be my pick. I'm going to double up on running backs, back-to-back picks. He scored 16 touchdowns last year. I mean, I don't think he's going to get 16 again. But the Packers, they have Devin Funchess, I believe. He opted out for the season.
He opted out, yeah.
Right, and the Packers didn't draft their wide receiver either. So I could see them relying heavily on the run this year since they didn't draft one, and their only free agent acquisition at wide receiver opted out. So I'm going to go with Aaron Jones here. I could see him getting at least double-digit touchdowns again and giving me at least 1,000 yards. So picking Aaron Jones.
I think that's a quality pick. Lamar Jackson and George Kittle go next, which is interesting because I'll be transparent. I was planning on taking those 2 players back-to-back with these picks, which is a little unconventional, but I just think that Lamar Jackson, Patty Mahomes are probably the best at their position. I think there's a big difference between those 2 guys and the next set of quarterbacks. And same thing with George Kittle. I think there's a big difference between having him at tight end and having anyone else at tight end. But just a little bit unlucky. I'm surprised they both went as second rounders. I thought I was, going to be considered reaching a little bit, but it certainly changes up my draft strategy now. So taking a look at the board here, it's nothing but running backs and wide receivers for as far as the eye can see. I'm going to take Chris Godwin first from Tampa Bay. I think with Tom Brady there, he's just going to be a monster and get a ton of points. And then James Conner is attractive to me. Todd Gurley, I think, could have a bounce-back season. But I'm really into David Johnson with the Houston Texans. And I know he's not going to be there if I wait. I just saw the pictures released of him. He looks like an absolute monster down in Houston. He's got something to prove. Just, 2 seasons ago, 3 seasons ago, he was the best guy in football, and he had some injuries, and he came back, and, wasn't quite the same, but I don't necessarily know if that's because of the injury or just a matter of circumstances. So I'm going to believe that the new location is going to be just what the doctor ordered. I think having Deshaun Watson at quarterback makes him even more dangerous. He's always been great coming out of the backfield. And this might be a little bit of a reach, but I'm taking David Johnson. Kenny Golladay and James Conner go next, and Marcus is back on the board. What's going through your head about how the last couple of picks unfolded? I think there was a couple of surprises in the last couple of picks there.
Yeah, last couple of picks. Kenny Golladay, I mean, he had a big season last year. So I know people are going to jump on him, whether it's auto pick or not. Detroit is a very pass-happy offense, so he's definitely going to get the targets, any opportunity to put up numbers. And James Conner, I mean, he's the lead back in Pittsburgh. People have been loving him ever since the whole Le'Veon situation, and they're hoping they can get a repeat of some of his successful seasons. For my pick, I went running back the first 2 picks. So now it's time for me to get a receiver. As a Vikings fan, I see Adam Thielen on the board, but I also see Mike Evans. And, Mike Evans definitely put up numbers last season, even with Chris Godwin there. And now that Tom Brady is there and they got Gronk, I'm kind of leaning towards him, even though the homer in me wants to take Adam Thielen. But I think I'm going to go Mike Evans on this one. I think that he can possibly have a bigger season. Thielen, they might focus on him more because Stephon Diggs is gone. So I'm going to go Mike Evans with this fit.
I think it's smart. I mean, big body guy, gets in the end zone, he gets his catches. I think he's a quality receiver. Thielen went the next pick, followed by Todd Gurley in the third round. I think that's a little bit early for Gurley, honestly. I know I've given him out as a guy with some potential value, but I don't think he's quite a third-round pick anymore. Le'Veon Bell taken just after that, I think is some good value. He's been working hard all offseason. Rich, why don't you break down how things have unfolded since your last pick and kind of where your mind's at?
Not well, because those last 3 picks were literally my cue. So now I got to scramble, which is what happens in fantasy. I see Chris Carson still there, but I see a lot of competition in Seattle. I see his fumbles. I love Chris Carson. I see the fumbles. Leonard Fournette, he's playing for a contract somewhere else. So, I mean, he was great last year. I don't know what the coaching staff is going to do with him because they know he's not going to be there next year. Odell, he's always a toss-up. He can be the Giants Odell, or he can be the Odell of Cleveland and, be the locker room guy that you don't want. Juju Smith-Schuster's kind of off the board for me just based on last year. I think I'm going to take a weird turn here, and I am going to draft Mark Andrews. I think I need, a top-tier tight end, and right now with Travis Kelce and George Kittle off the board, I think I'm not going to get Mark Andrews on the way back. So I set myself up. I have the running back, I have the wide receiver, and now I have the tight end, and now I have a little more flexibility to do what I need to do.
And I think that makes sense. I was considering taking a tight end. I didn't quite have the value at that point. There's a big drop off if you don't take the tight end there. So you got 3 of the the most important positions, right, to get right. I like the pick. Leonard Fournette went next, Chris Carson went next, and then Juju Smith-Schuster. And John, you're on the clock for 2 picks. You can really set the tempo.
You're muted, John.
Sorry, rookie mistake there.
I read your lips. It was riveting. Just do it one more time.
I'm just looking at what's left here, and based on going running back, wide receiver, that's one of the risks that you take when you're picking 12th. Is I'm not in love with any of the running backs that are left. There's a couple of guys there that I like. I just think it's too early to take one. So I'm probably going to shift away from that. Look at what receivers are left. You got Odell, which I'm very much not a fan of. You got Robinson. The guy I'm going to go with here may surprise you a little bit, but I'm a fan of this team. I'm going to take Amari Cooper.
I'm not totally shocked with that. I mean, I thought for sure if you were going to end up with one Cowboy wide receiver, it'd be CeeDee Lamb. But Amari Cooper makes a ton of sense. I mean, he was just a stud last year. I think he's really found a great home in Dallas.
Yeah, I do too. And I think he's, he's a guy that's going to get the ball. He's the proven guy there. And you know how much I love CD as well. But it's way too early to take him, I think. But, if we're, 5 or 6 rounds from now and CD's available, might be some good insurance there for Amari. So now I got to go for my next pick here. I'm still not hurting, but I still need a running back. I'm not a fan of taking a quarterback this early, so I'm going to take my tight end because there's just not enough of them to go around. And I know I got Ertz there, I got Gronk there, I got Waller there, I got Ingram there, I got Hurst there. I'm actually going to go Darren Waller.
And this is the hard part when you pick back-to-back, John, is needing to sometimes reach beyond where we are in the draft because you're not going to have the value later. So I actually think you made the right move. I think to have, your running back both your wide receivers and a tight end right now is a really good position to be in. Odell Beckham Jr. went next. Allen Robinson went next. 2 wide receivers I no longer like. If it was 3 years ago, maybe I would have. And Melvin Gordon drafted in the 4th round. I actually think is some pretty good value. I know he's going to be splitting some carries there in Denver, but I do like the value there in the 4th round for Melvin Gordon. And Rich, you are now on the clock. What's did you get? I'm all tongue tied. But did your queue get screwed again?
Oh, absolutely, for sure. This is kind of the part of the draft where the running backs just fall off the face of the earth. I was targeting Melvin Gordon, even though I'm not a huge Melvin Gordon fan. And if you look at the computer team right before me, no one's going to draft 4 straight running backs. So thank you.
Actually, yeah, and the team after you has 3 straight running backs as well. So this is actually really bizarre.
Thank you for ruining my life, Sleeperbot. Now I agree with John.
CBS is better.
CBS is better. So, no, I mean Sleeperbot. Obviously, I love you. We're on your platform, but
they're not a sponsor. We're not getting paid. We don't have to.
Well, we're showing their product. If they get this far in the video, which they won't. So I mean, I have to look at the running backs that are still available. It's kind of a big gap, I think. I mean, I'm looking at Jonathan Taylor in Dynasty. That makes perfect sense. We're not doing a Dynasty draft right now. Marlon Mack is still the main guy there. Montgomery last year didn't do what I thought he would do. Wasn't as high, as a ceiling as I thought he would reach. Then you're between Singletary and Ingram. And for me, I mean, Singletary is the guy in Buffalo. Frank Gore is gone. I think it's a nice, blanket for Josh Allen. So before the running backs completely go off the face of the earth, which they will, I have to take Singletary here just as my RB2.
And I think that makes a ton of sense. A couple of reaches happening right now when I was just looking at the value chart. DK Metcalf, Calvin Ridley, and Jonathan Taylor all drafted for Marcus's pick. But, Rich, you brought up a point that the team before you, there's no way they would have drafted 4 running backs. I feel like everyone's draft has one dumb person that might draft 4 straight running backs. So, this is kind of unreal.
Name them on air?
This is kind of unrealistic, but also at the same time, I feel like it might be extra realistic. Because every draft does have this guy in it.
That's always the guy who wants to trade later but never ever gets to make a trade. That's what this guy is.
Exactly.
It's definitely Kevin. It's definitely Kevin. I'm gonna let him know.
That's Kevin in our draft. Absolutely.
It's definitely Kevin for sure.
Kevin, leave a comment in the in the player below. Let us know your retort. I'd love to hear it. Marcus, you're on the clock. Did your queue get all screwed up too?
Well, I was being extremely optimistic, hoping Amari Cooper would be here, but I knew he wasn't. But for the most part, no. One of the players I was targeting is still on the board. And kind of what Rich was saying when it was his pick about running backs, how this, you got to get them early, and at this point in the draft, it's not that many. So on my queue, I had Singletary. It also had Mark Ingram. Mark Ingram's going to be my pick here. I like to take running backs early, just because of what Rich said. They just kind of go early, and it's just not that many later on. I feel you can still get a productive wide receiver later, but running back's going to be hard to come by. That Baltimore offense, it all runs through Lamar Jackson, but last year, he had 10 touchdowns, over 1,000 yards. I don't really see that big of a drop-off. I see him still being a big part of that offense, so I'm going to go Mark Ingram the second here with this pick.
I think it's a great pick. I'm a big Mark Ingram fan. DJ Moore and David Montgomery drafted right after him. And I'm going to be honest, guys. I'm at a little bit of a loss here. I'm not entirely sure what direction I want to go, and I'm just going to talk through my thought process here. My love of loves is Cooper Kupp. I drafted him his rookie year. I'm obsessed with him. I don't know why. He's not all that good. And the Rams offense kind of scares me a little bit. Like, they had an off year last year, and I feel like everyone on the Rams was disappointing. Right below him, value-wise, is Robert Woods, who actually is projected to, get... I think do a little bit better. He seems to get in the end zone a little bit more than Cooper Kupp. We go a little bit down here. I really like Tyler Lockett. I had him last year, 2 years ago. Was one of the bright spots of my team. I think he is undervalued and underrated. And I feel like I need a tight end. And I have 2 picks to make here, and I refuse to draft Zach Ertz. So it kind of leaves me at a loss. I think I'm going to wait to take the tight end. And I think I am going to take my true love, Cooper Kupp. And I think I am going to be the first human to select a quarterback here in our draft. And I'm going to take Russell Wilson. Of the quarterbacks, these 3 to me are the top fantasy options. I think there's a big difference between these guys and the next highest rated on SleeperBot, Kyler Murray. I think there's a very big difference in reliability, ability, and what you're going to get on your points here. So I think the quarterback position now is a little bit more value than it gets credit for. I've always been a proponent of taking a quarterback later in drafts, but I don't like waiting much later than round 5 where I took Russell Wilson. So that was my pick. A.J. Brown and Raheem Mostert, I've never learned how to pronounce his last name, was in strong consideration for me as well for the second pick. Maybe had I gotten Lamar Jackson in round 3, I would have taken Mostert in round 5 here, but just wasn't the way the cookie crumbled. Marcus, you're back on the clock. What's going on in Marcus land? Makis land.
So originally I was going to target Cooper Kupp. I was hoping he would be here, but he's not. And
my true love, Cooper Kupp.
I was going to go tight end here, but I had Zach Ertz last year, and he didn't really do too well for me. So now
I refuse to take Zach Ertz.
And the funny thing is, if we don't take him this year, he's going to have a great season or something.
Of course.
It's like I had him last year. He didn't do much. I put him on the bench against the Bears. He had 100 yards and touchdown. I put him back in. He was horrible. So I just have a hatred for him.
It be like that, man. Especially with Zach Ertz. It be like that.
So my pick right here, I'm looking at Tyler Lockett. I had him last year with Seattle. Gave me good numbers. 82 catches, over 1,000 yards, 8 touchdowns. Russell Wilson is a star among stars. So that's my pick. He's going to be my wide receiver 2. I'm going to go with Tyler Lockett.
Love the selection. Robert Woods selected Keenan Allen. Zach Ertz just before Rich, but he did get his tight end a little bit earlier on in round 3 in Mark Andrews. So tell me what your queue was looking like before your pick, Rich, and kind of what you're thinking.
Exactly, those 3 players. Again. So I think they're just like, they're looking at my phone, they're like, not today.
Stop literally putting them in your queue.
I got to stop doing that. Yeah. So, I mean, now I just got to kind of circle around what I was going to do. So there's one player on here that I'm very interested in drafting, but I don't know what he's going to be because he didn't play last year. I'm looking at A.J. Green. Obviously, A.J. Green, when he's healthy, he's a top-tier wide receiver. You got Burrow coming in. He is going to want to set those stats very high. He's probably going to air it out, maybe not accurately to begin, but they'll get into a groove eventually. Very risky. And then, the other guy I have in my queue right now is Stephon Diggs. I don't like having, necessarily 2 players on the same team. I already have Singletary. Diggs and Singletary can't score at the same time, which kind of puts me at a disadvantage. And then you got a player like DJ Chark, who absolutely lit the world on fire last year with Gardner Minshew. But I think I'm going to take a chance. I'm going to go for the flashy name right here, and I'm going to put A.J. Green as my wide receiver 2.
If he can be healthy, I mean, listen, he's got the number 1 overall pick of quarterback, a coach that wants to do something exciting on offense. I think you're getting good value here in the 5th round with A.J. Green. T.Y. Hilton was selected next. Scary Terry McLaurin drafted after that. DJ Chark Jr. at the 11th pick of the 5th round. And now, John, you were on the clock for back-to-back picks.
I am, and I'm going to tell you, Rich took the guy I was going to take at this spot because I always feel the 5th round is someone you could take a shot at. So kudos to Rich on that one. So in that same vein, I'm going to take a shot on somebody that probably isn't the starter going into camp, oddly enough. But I just think where this guy was taken, I was shocked. I'm going to go with J.K. Dobbins. fell into the second round for the Ravens, and I think he's got a little bit of a chip on his shoulder. And the one thing I like about the Ravens, they are not afraid to play the hot hand. They're not afraid to play to put a player in there that they think could do very well for him. So it was between him and Hunt. And Hunt, I just don't think I don't like the share with Chubb, and I think Chubb is going to get the majority of the carries. So I think it's too early for me to take Hunt in that spot. So in my next spot, I still need a running back. I can go wide receiver, although I think there's more wide receivers later on. And I could take a quarterback here. There's a couple of them that I do like, but I think I could wait. So I'm going to take another running back. And again, it's a guy who might, I think he's still the starter going into camp, but they drafted a rookie there that they really like that I almost took last round too. I'm going to take Marlon Mack here.
And I think that's a great pick. He, has been a very productive back, and he's good at getting into the end zone too. He's a nice, tough running back. DeAndre Swift was taken next, followed by Marquise Brown, and then Kareem Hunt. So Rich just falls short of maybe getting Kareem Hunt with his in the next round. Still a lot of really great talent on the board here, and we're starting to see some of the young, exciting quarterbacks creep their way up the draft board. Rich, where's your eye in the 6th round?
I mean, for me, last round it was between A.J. Green and Stephon Diggs. Obviously, Stephon Diggs and Singletary can't score at the same time, but in my flex, he's definitely a player that I'm going to take a shot on. All Josh Allen can do is run and throw deep, and Stephon Diggs loves to run straight and catch the ball. He loves to run deep. So, I mean, it seems like a match made in heaven. Obviously, as a Jets fan, I know the cornerback situation isn't great right now.
Twice a year, he's going to burn us.
He's gonna get 25 at least two weeks out of the year. So for me, Stephon Diggs, welcome to my flex.
I think that's a no-brainer. If someone lasts a full round, you have to come back and get them. Cortland Sutton, Drew Brees, and Ronald Jones II is the next couple of picks, which brings Makis back on the clock. It is round 6. You've gone 3 running backs, 2 wide receivers. What's your target this round?
So, just as a sentimental thing, I was thinking about taking Stephon Diggs if he was still there. So missing the purple, but whatever. He can stay out there. We don't need him.
I'll trade him for Thielen.
I don't have Thielen.
Oh, you just talked him up. Never mind. Sorry.
Yeah. So here, what I think I'm going to do, I still need a tight end, but I think I can get some good tight ends on a comeback or a later round. I think there's still some out there. What I think I'm going to do now is I think I'm going to take a quarterback. I'm looking at Kyler Murray and Prescott and Watson. I think all 3 are going to have good seasons. I think Kyler Murray in that offense, his running ability and his throwing with DeAndre out there, I think he's in for a good season. Dak, I mean, he was top 5. I think he finished number 2 last year as a quarterback in fantasy. So, I mean, they added CeeDee Lamb. I think he's just going to have another good season. And Deshaun Watson, I mean, he's Deshaun Watson. I mean, remember that throw last year in the playoffs when you got kicked in the face and still threw a touchdown?
He's the man. He's the man.
He's a baller. He can ball.
Yeah.
But I think I'm going to take the breakout. My pick for breakout this year, I'm going to take Kyler Murray. I think he's going to have a breakout season. I think he's going to set the offense on fire and be a name that's going to be talked about all season. So I'm going to go Kyler Murray here for my quarterback.
And you taking Kyler Murray there and Deshaun Watson getting drafted just now with James White just before him, it makes me feel more confident in when I took a quarterback because the next 2 guys I would have wanted were gone by the time I got back on the clock. So, again, when you're doing the back-to-back pick, you do sometimes have to reach a little bit on talent if there's, a particular guy that you are targeting and you're looking for. Now, I was also targeting James White. I'm a big fan of his. I think he's always been a very productive running back, and especially in a PPR league, he's someone I wanted. With him being gone, and I kind of scroll down here, I need a tight end, but I still need to fill out some flex positions. And when I just look at the value of what's kind of around in this block, I'm not horribly in love with any of the tight ends, but I don't think I'm going to be at this point. I missed out on
Zach
Kittle.
Ertz.
I missed out on Kittle. Zach Ertz, I don't care. I missed out on Kittle, and without Kittle, I just don't really love any tight end. So I think I'm gonna just kind of settle for one here, and with me taking Godwin before, I think I'm gonna go with Evan Engram, even though I've said to avoid him on this show before. I can justify he's a young tight end if he can stay healthy with a young quarterback. I think he could potentially get in the end zone. It's just kind of an injury concern. But I'll give him a shot here. I think this is decent value. And then I'm going to come back here with a running back. No, I think we're going to go wide receiver. I changed my mind mid-sentence. And I think I'm going to take Julian Edelman. This guy has been PPR gold forever. New quarterback in Cam Newton. They've been looking really good in their workouts. And because I didn't get James White, I could use a player from New England, and I think they're going to be a pretty good offense with Cam Newton under center. So Edelman is the way I'm going to go. I saw Rich nod, so I feel good about that pick. Jarvis Landry and Devontae Parker were next off the board. So again, I feel pretty good about going with the wide receiver I wanted. And Marcus, you are on the clock again. What direction are you heading?
So, like I said earlier, I still need a tight end, but I think I'm going to hold out. I'm going to keep my fingers crossed that I can still get a good one, maybe on a comeback. Like you said, if you don't get Kelsey and you don't get Kittle, it's kind of a big drop-off after that, unless you love Zach Ertz.
Mark
why
Andrews,
would you?
man.
Mark Andrews. Yeah, Mark Andrews is there. I just want to throw a shot at Zach Ertz because he hurt my feelings last year.
Hurt my feeling every year.
Yeah, I'm very upset.
Zach Ertz.
But as I'm looking at my team, I have 3 running backs, 2 receivers. I'm seeing Michael Gallup right there. I think this Dallas offense is going to be pretty potent. He put up numbers last year, over 1,000 yards, 6 touchdowns. I think he can have another good season this year. I was also looking at Will Fuller, but due to his injury history, I don't know if I want to take a chance on him, although there's a chance to be number 1 with Hopkins gone, but his injuries scare me. I was looking at Gronk. I don't know how good Gronk is going to be. Last time I seen him, he wasn't looking too big. He looks like he lost a lot of weight. I don't know if he put all that muscle back on. So I'm going to go with Michael Gallup here in that Dallas offense.
Michael Gallup, Cam Akers, Brandon Cooks, Dak Prescott, and Rich is on the clock. I hope you weren't targeting Dak because he's no longer available. I had a feeling you were.
Sure was. All right. I like this format that I'm gonna pick, and every year it seems like if I win a championship, it's exactly for this reason. So maybe Dak wasn't meant to be. Every team that I have 2 tight ends starting every week are the teams that do the best for me. The tight ends are usually the security blankets. They're usually, they're gonna get the yardage. They're gonna be the guys that get the ball towards the goal line. This year, one of my secret man crushes is a man named Hayden Hurst. Hayden Hurst, for me, he's going to be Austin Hooper 2.0. He's gonna get the receptions that that went off the board. Now this is risky because I have Julio, but I think I can make it work in an offense where they're mostly pass. I think Todd Gurley, he's probably going to be injured by week 1.5, and then Hurst is going to make up the rest. So for me, I'm going to rock with the 2 tight ends. I got Hayden Hurst going here.
I love
doubling
that.
Up on teams again.
I love that. Gronk got selected just after, and had I gotten Kittle early, Rich, that was going to be a strategy of mine. Get the top tier guy early, and then come back in round maybe 7 or 8 and get an Engram, a Hurst, someone, a Hunter Henry, maybe even slightly later on, and try to get yourself 2 tight ends. Really kind of own that position and take advantage of them in the flex. So I like the 2 tight end strategy. Tyler Boyd and Tevin Coleman get selected after the tight end run, leaving John on the board. Heavy on running backs and wide receivers. You have your tight end already. Where are you looking right now, John?
I'm going to go with another wide receiver because he fell in my lap and I really like him. It's Will Fuller. He was someone I would have targeted here. Actually, I would have liked his teammate also that was taken this round, Brandon Cooks. But Fuller is a guy, again, he's got to stay healthy. But when he's healthy, I think he's an elite wide receiver. So I'm going to add him to my team here.
Even if he's only healthy for the first 6 weeks of the season, you're getting him at round 7. He's not one of your starters, right? He's a flex player. You have 6 weeks of just gold with Will Fuller. If that's as long as he can stay healthy.
You're absolutely right. As long as he stays a little bit healthy.
Knock on wood for you, though.
Knock on wood, absolutely. So my next pick, there's a few things that I like here. There's actually a couple tight ends that I like. I could grab my quarterback. There's a couple of big names on there that I really like, and this is a nice spot to get those guys. Running back is going to be a crapshoot the rest of the way. And I just want to take a look at receiver again because there's a few guys I like there. I could go Lamb here even though I already have Cooper. But I'm going to go to another guy who's actually not healthy right now, but he's probably one of my favorite players in the league, and that's Debo.
Debo Samuel, followed by Matt Breida, Jordan Howard, and Marvin Jones. I don't know what I was hoping for. I was kind of hoping Breida would fall. I'm a big fan of that selection. I think he's going to be really good in Miami. Jordan Howard has had a lot of injury concerns the last few seasons, so I think Breida is going to be kind of the main guy there. Rich, you're on the clock. Tell me that you had Breida, Howard, and Jones in your queue.
Not this time. I finally got away with one. My next pick, he's going to be a guy that you're going to want in all formats. I don't think that Juju Smith-Schuster is going to be around next year, which means this guy is going to be your number one wide receiver going forward with what is a healthy Ben Roethlisberger, hopefully. I have Deontay Johnson in my Dynasty League. He's definitely someone that I'm looking forward to having. And in this draft, you can never have too many wide receivers. So my pick is Deontay Johnson.
And someone I was taking a look at as well, Rich. I think that's a great pick. Tariq Cohen, Phillip Lindsay, Latavius Murray, a nice running back run heading into Makis's pick. You have your quarterback. You're still waiting on that tight end. Is this the pick you're going to pull the trigger?
Possibly. I see Tyler Higbee there. Good season last year. 700 yards, 60-plus catches, 3 touchdowns. Also, I see Sony Michel there. I see Hunter Henry. I think Sony Michel can be good for the Patriots. He can be an all-around weapon. Another running back I can add to my team here. That'll be my 4th. Every year in fantasy, I seem to get burned by running backs, and it always upsets me. So maybe I'll go Sony Michel here. I think that's what I'm going to do. I think I'm going to go Sony Michel just to have a nice stockpile of running backs to add to Mark Ingram, Aaron Jones, and Clyde.
Edwards-Helaire. The Frenchman.
I think it's a smart pick, Marcus. I don't think you can ever have too many running backs in fantasy football. It's just not that many. Exactly. Tyler Higbee, Kerryon Johnson were drafted next. Speaking of that, I only have 2 running backs, so it definitely needs to be a selection of mine. But I'm going to take CeeDee Lamb with the first pick because I've been praying since John's selection that he would stay on the board, and I really wanted him. Definitely worth the target for me to select CeeDee Lamb. And now, quite frankly, I'm looking at kind of the best available running backs, and no one is really jumping off the board at me. Scrolling, and I think I waited too long to get a 3rd running back is kind of the end of the story here. So
when 2 computers draft 10 in the first 5 rounds, you might have an issue.
I might have an issue. So I don't know who's this Antonio Gibson guy. This is where it gets to a point where I don't even know anyone anymore.
Well, I can tell you that he probably is not in a domestic relationship because he's still on a team, which makes him better than Darius Geis, and probably towards the start of the pecking order there. He's a rookie.
I like a rookie. Whatever. We did it. The Washington football team. Someone has to take him. That's where I'm at. Emmanuel Sanders and Alexander Madison go next. So, Marcus, you are on the board. Still some tight ends. Only Tyler Higbee has been drafted since your pick. Is this finally the round? Do you pull the trigger?
Yes, I am going to get Hunter Henry. I think he's a good pick. I like the offense with the Chargers. They got Eckler, they got Keenan Allen, they got Hunter Henry. So I'm gonna go Hunter Henry. I think I held out long enough. I think this is a good pick. He's going to give me good value at this selection. He has the talent, the ability to bust out and have a good season. Even last year, he gave me some decent numbers. So I'm going to go Hunter Henry with this pick. Hopefully, he can improve on his 5 touchdowns, which I think he can. So finally got my tight end, Hunter Henry.
Hunter Henry quickly followed by Matt Ryan, Tom Brady, and Carson Wentz. Another QB run. And Rich, you are without a quarterback still. But I noticed the best player available, according to the SleeperBot picks, is one of the best quarterbacks to ever play the game, Aaron Rodgers. Is that your selection?
Yeah, gotta be, apparently. I was trying to get him on the way back, but, when you get Matt Ryan, Tom Brady and Drew Brees on the same team. Thank you, computer. That makes a ton of sense. And then we got Dak Prescott and Carson Wentz, just for the NFC East. Let's have a little reunion. That makes tons of sense.
I know it's easy to make fun of the computer, but this really isn't that far. I've been in drafts like this. People
let me
draft
their money.
Like this.
Tell me those people going in those drafts. So, by default, because, I don't want a running back at quarterback with Josh Allen, so I got to actually pick one who throws the ball accurately. Aaron Rodgers. Obviously, he is dropping in all these mock drafts, but I would love him on my team in real life. So here he is in my fake team, Aaron Rodgers, quarterback.
And Josh Allen taken just after that, followed by Zach Moss and Darius Slayton. John, you're in a very similar position Rich was. You don't have a quarterback yet, and there's been a big run on them. Are you starting to maybe regret not taking one earlier, or is this all part of the strategy?
I'm not regretting it yet. Actually, I was hoping that Rodgers made it back to me. I almost took him where I took Debo in the last round, but I'm still waiting. I'm still willing to wait on quarterback. There's still a lot of guys out there that I think are going to have good years. So I'm going to shy away from that for this specific pick. And there's other guys out there. I know I probably need to pick up another running back or two along the way. There's none of them that I love right now, and I'm not a fan of reaching. I like to take the guys that kind of fall in your lap. So I am going to take another wide receiver. I'm going to take a rookie. And we're going to go with Ruggs. If it lets me take him. There we go.
So Henry Ruggs, you're still on the clock, John.
I am still on the clock, and I'm going to go. I took a tight end already with Waller, who I do like. I thought he was the best tight end on the board at that point. And I thought it was important to get him. And another guy that there's actually 3 guys here left that I like. 4 guys, actually, and only 3 of them what I really want on my team. I'm going to take Noah Fant.
So Noah Fant, the tight end from Denver, and some quick picks here coming from the computer. Keyshawn Vaughn, San Francisco 49ers defense. Our first defense is off the board. And Matty Stafford. Rich is back on the clock. Why don't you break down the last couple of picks and then tell us where your head's at?
Based on this draft, obviously running backs are... they're going to go. And I was actually targeting Vaughn. I just, I see him in an offense with Tom Brady. Ronald Jones, he doesn't blow me away. He didn't blow me away at USC. He's definitely not blowing me away in Tampa. I think Vaughn would have been a great pick, especially in a Dynasty League, because he's probably going to end up being the starter. San Francisco defense, I would never do a defense before the second to last or last round. So
crazy.
If you want to do that, by all means, computer, with your 89 running backs.
Again, people draft like this, though. People draft like this.
I'm for it. And then Matt Stafford, after you just got Josh Allen, that's definitely quality.
This is another thing. In fact, people love drafting a backup quarterback. I don't get it. What do you need it for?
Well, it really depends, how many go before you, I guess. If you have, a Lamar Jackson or Patty Mahomes, you can kind of roll the dice. But, if you get, it's too late and you got to get a backup guy, then you need backup to the backup, especially in, crazy drafts. But for me, I'm going with someone that I know is going to get PPR points. He's on one of the most powerful offenses in the NFL. He's a guy I have on a lot of teams last year. He is a Super Bowl winner. He's got the ring. He's got the quarterback. McCole Hardman, welcome to the squad.
McCole Hardman. The Ravens defense are second defense off the board. Jerry Jeudy, Jamison Crowder, both guys that we're hoping would slip to me. I wanted one of them. Both of them are gone, so I have some thinking to do. Marcus, why don't you talk us through who's on the board and what direction you think you're heading in?
So, I definitely had McCole Hardman. I was trying to get him next. But, Rich, thank you, Rich. I knew he wasn't going to last, though. Just being hopeful. So, for this pick, I got 3 receivers, 4 running backs. So I was going to go wide receiver this pick. So because of the way that the computer is drafting, I may have to do a little reaching here. And I think I was going to take Justin Jefferson here from the Vikings. Either him or I was thinking him or Rager from the Eagles. But I don't like the Eagles. So I don't know if I want one of them on my team. So I will, if it's a bad pick, I'll accept it. I don't like the Eagles. Not because there's Zach Ertz and from what they did to the Vikings in the NFC title game.
I think that's fair, man. Hold a grudge.
I will. So I'm going to go Justin Jefferson. I think he's going to be a good part of this offense. Now that Stephon Diggs is gone, there's a lot of targets that need to be replaced. I think some are going to go to the tight end set, but I think Justin Jefferson is going to have a pretty good season for the Vikings, him and Captain Kirk. So I am going to go Justin Jefferson.
Justin Jefferson, Jared Cook, Darrell Henderson, all take him at the next couple of picks. And I'm in a position now where I'm really just drafting skill positions until my last 2 picks. I don't believe in drafting a backup quarterback. I'll pick one off of free agency whenever Russell Wilson has his bye week. I don't think it's really necessary unless it's pretty bad. So
trade bait. You can use them as trade bait.
You can, but I don't care that much. It's 1 week. I mean, like it is putting all your eggs in a QB basket, and I've been burnt before, but this is my strategy. It works for me. That this is what I do. I am kind of scrolling down the list here. I don't like anyone who's kind of up front. And I see Sammy Watkins available, and I think almost anyone in Kansas City's offense is bound to get a couple of big games a year. So I think I'm going to take Sammy Watkins, who took a discount deal to stay in Kansas City. And scrolling down a little bit more, I like this running back quite a bit. Drafted by Green Bay, A.J. Dillon. I think he's going to be a goal line monster. I think he's going to, kind of get a ton of those carries away from Jones. It's a little bit of a back by committee situation, but in round 11, I'm willing to take one of them and see if maybe he gets hot. Tony Pollard and Chase Edmonds were drafted next. So, Marcus, you are on the board. Who would you be selecting?
I don't know.
Good answer.
What team does he play for?
He plays for the
Washington
football team.
So, I was thinking maybe AP. Since Darius Geis is gone, I think he can give me good value as a running back. I think he still can put up some decent numbers. I mean, he's not going to be AP of old when he was in the glorious Minnesota Vikings uniform, but I think he can still give you. I think he gave like 800 yards last year. And running back is always at this point in the draft, you're not going to get anything special. But at least I get AP who's going to be a starter. So
I don't know, my Antonio Gibson pick.
Yeah. I know nothing about Washington. It's either that or take Boston Scott, but he plays for the Eagles. So I don't like him.
Can't pick that. Nope.
Not at all. I'll feel dirty.
You're not even in their division.
I don't care.
He doesn't care for them, Rich. It's
not
fine.
at all.
I support Marcus's decisions.
Thank you. So I am going to go Adrian Peterson, the ageless wonder after Frank Gore.
AP Duke Johnson, the Steelers defense, Christian Kirk, and Rich is back on the board. Break down the last couple of picks for us.
Adrian Peterson would have been my pick, and then Duke Johnson would have been my pick. So
I'll trade you for McCole Hartman.
Pass. So obviously at this point, I need a running back. I'm looking at potential at this point, and I'm looking at the Chargers. Last year, you had Gordon and you had Eckler, and Eckler played a great role. Now you have Eckler and you have Jackson. Let's hope that Jackson can play the Eckler role. Eckler can play the Gordon role. We'll get some PPR gold here. I'm going Justin Jackson.
It's a great name. Great name, Justin Jackson.
Justin Jackson. Sounds like a running back. So he's going to be my pick here.
Jalen Reagor, Cam Newton.
Killer Cam.
Brandon Ayuk.
Ayuk.
Drafted next. Now, John, you're starting to worry me. Still don't have a quarterback. I thought you were maybe targeting Cam. You can break that down in a minute or two. And it's really, I don't like any of the quarterbacks left personally, but maybe you know something I don't.
Yeah, with this specific pick, I'm not taking the quarterback. I was actually looking for Brandon. I can never say his last name. Ayuk here, even though I have Debo. Yeah, I think he's Debo Jr. Really, I think that guy's got a whole lot of talent. So he was the guy I was probably gonna take in this spot, even though I already have 4 receivers. What I'm looking for now is basically quality, which is obviously hard to find at this point. So I'm gonna scroll for a minute here and look. I do want to take another running back, but there's nothing there that really interests me. So let me see what I could find in a receiver. There's still a couple guys out there. I'm going to take a guy that I think is going to have a pretty decent year. It's going to be another receiver because I just happen to love receivers.
Who doesn't?
And if my fat fingers will allow, I'm going to take Lazard.
And we were talking about him a few weeks ago. I mean, great value pick there. He's I think he's due for a big season. You're getting some real good value in round 11.
Yeah, I think so. I like him in that spot. It's not a guy I'm taking before then, but I think it's a guy that could be productive. I think Rodgers is obviously going to sling the ball around. And I'll make Craig happy here. I'm going to take my quarterback.
Whew.
I'm going to take the guy I think is going to be the comeback player of the year.
Big Ben?
Big Ben.
Yep. Had to be.
It made the most sense. Big Ben gives me some worries just because of his injury history. He seems to never play a full season, but listen, when he's healthy, he's probably the best in the league. So I think it's a really good pick. The Bills defense, Damian Harris, and the Patriots defense were all drafted next. The defense is going a little bit earlier than I anticipated personally. The computer loves to reach. Rich, you are on the clock. Tell me about how dumb the computer is, and then tell me who you're picking.
I mean, you do what you need to do, computer. I mean, I would wait a little longer for the defense, but, I mean, it's good value here based on what's left. So I'm thinking about going running back again. The best value player on my board I can't possibly take because I have 2 other of his teammates. So if someone wants to take him, I'm just sending signals out, but I won't name him. But he's a PPR machine. So I'm looking at running backs right now. Bart Scott, wow. Throwback. Can't wait. Boston Scott and LaShawn McCoy are the top 2 running backs on the board right now. LaShawn McCoy, he did some things with the Chiefs last year. I mean, Andy Reid used him correctly, and then he kind of fizzled out. And then Boston Scott, I mean, he came out of nowhere. Him and Miles Sanders were a great 1-2 punch. Looking at Tampa Bay, it's just a bunch of, I think they have 6 running backs right now. So if it's going to be Ronald Jones, if it's going to be Vaughn, if it's going to be McCoy, I don't know. But in Philly right now, it's really only Sanders and Scott. So I'm going Boston Scott here.
Boston Scott, Deshaun Jackson, Sterling Shepard, the Bears defense, bringing Makis on the board. First, Marcus, tell me about why Philly is terrible again, and then tell me where you're drafted.
Because I never had an issue with Philly until they destroyed the Vikings in the NFC title game, and I watched that game in a house full of Eagles fans, and it was a horrible experience. And then I just had a hatred for them. And I think the very next season they had to lose to Washington to help the Vikings, and they beat Washington, so I hate them all over again after that. And then Zach Ertz burnt me last year, so I just have an issue with them.
It's fair. It's fair.
Yeah. That works for me.
Thank you. So this pick, I'm going to do what Rich was talking about. He wanted a 2 tight end set, so I think I'm going to take another tight end right here. I had a 2 tight end set last year. One of them being Ertz, and he burned me. Just wanted to bring it up again. It's never enough. So I'm looking at Austin Hooper, but I'm also looking at a player who I think can have a breakout season in T.J. Hawkinson with Detroit. He had a pretty good year until injuries. I know, like I said, Detroit, they love to throw the ball. They haven't really been a big running team in years. With Austin Hooper, he's on Cleveland. I don't really trust Cleveland. I don't know what they're going to be this year. They were supposed to be the super team last year, and they didn't really come through. A lot of issues. So I'm going to go T.J. Hawkinson. I think he's primed for a breakout year. I think he's healthy, and he's going to show that he can be a stud in his offense. So I'm going to go T.J. Hawkinson to complete my 2 tight end set with Hunter Henry.
I really wanted T.J. Hawkinson. Golden Tate and Anthony Miller get drafted next, so I am pretty disappointed that I don't get T.J. Hawkinson. But the other player I was targeting, and I did not mean to click this screen, but John Brown was the player that I was targeting. I think this guy's always had a knack for getting into the end zone. I think the Bills' offense is probably a little bit better than we realize. And I think he just does great stuff underneath, and he's always been a red zone threat. So I'm a big fan of John Brown.
He was the player I was talking about, by the way. I have 2 of his teammates. Couldn't take John Brown.
I did pick up the hint, but I've been such a fan of his even since his days in Arizona. And I love that whatever dance this is that he does, where, you know the one I'm talking about?
Just do it one more time.
It's like he's just pumping his arms like a
I have
like
no
a
idea. I
crazy
just wanted
person.
to see it again.
It's fantastic. It's fantastic. I have to learn it one of these days. Big fan of that dance. And I have the back-to-back pick here. I could maybe take a defense. I do like the Chargers defense as an option with, one of the Bosa brothers. I could maybe go tight end as well. But yeah, I think I'm going to take the Chargers defense. I sometimes think that getting the right defense is an important play here. So with the third to last pick, I'll take a defense. The first human defense drafted. Daniel Jones and Baker Mayfield are drafted next, bringing Marcus on the clock. Tell us where your head's at.
Just real quick, the team that picks 11th before John, their entire team is running backs and wide receivers.
You gotta wait for it, man.
They're gonna run the Wildcat.
Yeah. I just noticed that. That is the computer.
They're gonna take Joe Burrow.
That's a good dynasty team right there. Boom.
Yeah,
Championship.
So, I don't know who I want to pick. I'm just going to be honest.
Take Tucker.
I'm not taking a kicker.
Take a kicker.
No.
I tried.
So, I see the Vikings defense. I can be that guy and take them. But I'm also looking at Preston Williams from the Dolphins. I think he can be their second or third option in Miami. I know they got Devontae Parker, but I think he can step up and be a decent option for them in the passing game. So I got, 4 receivers, 5 running backs. I'm going to step out and get Preston Williams from the Dolphins, and hopefully he can give me some good numbers with Fitzmagic.
Hop on the Fitzmagic school bus. Maybe Tua. Justin Tucker goes next, followed by Mike Gesicki, who I was kind of hoping would work his way back to me, but that was a long shot. Austin Hooper, and now, Rich, you are on the clock.
So if I'm just looking at the players available, I'm looking at who can give me the most points per week. And based on the talent left, ironically enough, that is actually a kicker.
Harrison Butker?
Harrison Butker, you got to figure he's on the Chiefs offense.
He's at
He's
least
gonna
getting
get
9 extra points a game.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, if he kicks a field goal, that's, what is that, 12 a week? That could be, low-end wide receiver value. So, for me, you guys joked about Justin Tucker. He would have been my pick here.
I thought it was a good pick. I wasn't joking.
Yeah. But I'm gonna go with Harrison Buckner just so I know he's gonna give me points. So here we go. Kicker.
Kickers are people too. LaShawn McCoy, Joe Burrow, and Ryan Tannehill are all selected, bringing John on the clock for the back-to-back pick. Talk us through it, John.
Well, me and Rich are on the same wavelength here because I'm taking a kicker too, and of course I would have taken either Tucker or Harrison if they were there. I'm going to take probably my favorite or my second favorite kicker in the history of football, Greg the Leg.
I knew it.
I love that guy. I think that obviously the Cowboys are going to score some points this year. And this guy let's be honest, this guy's going to make a few long 50s and maybe even a couple short 60s. So if I'm taking a kicker, I might as well take him. And then I'm looking for – he's got a boot. They call him Greg the Leg for a reason, right? So looking at what's left, and there's really – there's not a ton. I still want to get another running back only because I have 3, but there's still some receivers here. And I'm just going to name them because obviously my very last pick is going to be defense. But I'm very surprised with some of the guys that are left. Fitzgerald's left. Robbie Anderson's left. Perriman's left, who I think would, Perriman played like a 1 for half the year last year, and he's at the very bottom. That's.
He's a Jet.
I know he's a Jet, so I get that part of it. And then I'm doing the same thing with the running backs. I'm looking through. There's a couple of rookies left, but when you get to this point in the draft and you need a veteran, that's what you need another running back. I'm going to take a veteran who I think can get some goal line carries. It's my homer pick. I'm going to take Gore.
I love it. I think that's a great pick. Definitely, a contender to get some goal line carries in New York. And, Le'Veon is not the every down back he used to be. I think that makes a ton of sense. Blake Jarwin, Dallas Goedert or Godare? I never really learned how to say it. Goedert? It should be Godare. We should talk to him about changing it. Classic Philly, am I right, Marcus? And then the kicker, Will Lutz, was drafted just before Rich's pick. I was kind of hoping Lutz would fall to me. I am not so lucky. But, Rich, you are now on the clock. Where are you heading?
So this next pick, I have no idea why he's rated so low. He only put up 1,000 yards receiving last year. You only need that, right? Yeah. So I'm gonna pick Mike Williams right here, and for me, he can be a plug and play flex. If the whole Hayden Hurst hype train doesn't work, or if Stephon Diggs decides to get injured, Mike Williams is gonna go right in there, and you're not gonna miss a beat. We're going to have to see what he does with Tyrod. Tyrod's already talking him up, acting like he's the number 1 wide receiver there. Keenan Allen, all he is doing is talking trash. So maybe, that plays dividends. For me, Mike Williams is my clear-cut pick right here.
Mike Williams, I think, is a great pick. Yeah, I don't quite understand why he was even still on the board. Robbie Gould, Younghoe Koo, Jack Doyle all drafted. So the kicker run has begun in the second to last round here. And Makis is on the clock. Is it a kicker?
Wait. Did you just censor the word "ho"? Is that why you called it Younghoe?
Oh, I thought it was
one of the best names in football.
It's Younghoe Koo?
Younghoe, yeah.
Oh man, I thought it had like a better pronunciation than that. That's even better.
You're just making everyone French.
Younghoe. I don't know. I've been playing Ghost of Tsushima, and everyone's got like a really cool name like that, like Younghoe. I don't know. Yeah. It's just fun. It's cooler. But I like Younghoe Koo. I'll take it. He's not a very good kicker, so I won't draft him. But like,
no, he was last year. He definitely was. He was last year.
Man, not for me. So Jack Doyle drafted after that, and Marcus is on the clock. We've wasted a minute of your time.
So I'm gonna go kicker here. I'm gonna take Matt Gay from the Bucks. I think he's gonna have some more field goals this year with Tom Brady's arrival. Offense scores more points. Also have Mike Evans, so hopefully he can kick the extra points from a Mike Evans touchdown.
Whew, what a combo!
I know, right? I looked him up. He had 22 kicks from 40 yards, and he made 16 of them. And I think that can go up with Tom Brady's arrival. So I'm going to go Matt Gay.
Matt Gay, the Dolphins defense, the Buccaneers defense. I have the back-to-back picks, so these are my last selections. I'm going to first take N'Keal Harry, who I think has a lot of potential and some great value here at the end in New England. And then, of course, I need a kicker. And my strategy with a kicker is I like to take a kicker from an offense that's pretty good, but not quite good enough to get in the end zone. And as I kind of scroll down here, the one that jumps at my mind is Brandon McManus from the Denver Broncos. Also, you got to like the thin air up in Denver. You always hear about the altitude every year. So maybe he'll get some slightly longer field goals in. So I'm going to take Brandon McManus. Zane Gonzalez, Kaimi Fairbairn?
Close enough.
Guys, I only host a podcast. It's not like I need to know how to talk or anything. And
No,
and Marcus, you're back on the clock here. And your last position that you need is a defense. Who is your favorite of the defenses available?
They're purple.
So, of course. So I was thinking, should I take the Seahawks? Because they got Jamal Adams, but I was like, nah. Because the almighty Vikings are on the board. So I'm going to take the Vikings defense.
Vikings defense. Larry Fitzgerald, I think, is some good value here in the last round. Nyheim Hines, Anthony McFarland Jr., and Rich is on the clock, needing a defense. Who is your favorite available?
So I'm between 4 right now. I got the Saints, the Seahawks, the Chiefs, and the Packers. I don't want to have too many eggs in one basket. I already have the Chiefs kicker, so I don't want to double dip on defense for them. The Seahawks, I just can't take out of principle because I want Jamal Adams to fail in every facet of the game. I want George Kittle to literally destroy him twice a year, and then everyone else. I want the Seahawks to lose by 21 every week, and I want all 3 touchdowns to be against Jamal. And you guys know how big of a fan I am of the Saints. I love the Saints. They're anchored by Demario Davis, who the Jets should have never got rid of. So I'm going with the New Orleans Saints defense.
Saints defense. Rich's second favorite team is the New Orleans Saints. Fun fact. He always picks them to win the Super Bowl. Eric Ebron, Mason Crosby, Jake Elliott, and John Hazlett is now on the clock to select his defense. Who is your favorite defense available?
Mr. Irrelevant here, which is fitting because I feel defenses in most cases are irrelevant in fantasy. I usually use that spot and I play matchups and I drop my defense almost every other week. But with what's left on the board, I'm not taking the Seahawks for the same reason Rich isn't taking the Seahawks. But there's the Packers and the Chiefs left. I think the go-to here is the Chiefs. So that's who I'm going to take to round out this draft.
Mm-hmm.
So that is our draft board, and I will go to the full screen here so we can just kind of take a nice big look at it. And guys, anything that obviously there was some things with the computer draft skills that we had some qualms about. But what are just kind of your overall thoughts about how this draft unfolded, and what are some takeaways for our listeners?
For me, my team's going to be boom or bust. And I like to do it that way. If AJ Green performs like AJ Green, having Julio and AJ Green as my wide receivers, I can't get mad at that. Derrick Henry needs to be what he was last year. And then Aaron Rodgers obviously needs to bounce back. I'm taking a risk with my 2 tight ends with Mark Andrews and Hayden Hurst, but I like both of them a lot this year. And then I just had to take Stephon Diggs so Marcus couldn't get him. But I really like my wide receivers in this team. I'm 50-50 on my backup running backs. I probably would add people throughout the year. But overall, I'm not mad at my team. And I like your guys' teams too. I'm looking at Craig. Having Russell Wilson, Christian McCaffrey, David Johnson, Cooper Kupp, Godwin. I mean, Edelman is my guy. I mean, your team is it's great. And then you got a couple, you sprinkled in a couple rookies, so it worked for Dynasty as well. Marcus, you got a very safe team and a very good team at the same time. Tyler Lockett, I think, is the most underrated player in the NFL. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, you took a shot there, but I mean, in Dynasty, he's the guy to go with. Kyler Murray showed why he's Rookie of the Year. Your team is definitely solid as well. And then looking at John, you waited on quarterback, but I mean, Ben Roethlisberger, he's going to sling it this year because he wants to show everyone that he's the guy still. He's my backup in Dynasty. The only reason he's not starting is because I have Lamar. I love him at quarterback. Miles Sanders, big fan. DeAndre Hopkins and Cooper as your wide receivers is great. Marlon Mack, let's hope he keeps his starting job. I think he will. But your team is good from top to bottom as well. The computers, on the other hand, they're going with style and pizzazz. One of them has 8 running backs, the other one has 8 wide receivers. Good luck to the computers this year, but I think we got them beat.
Yeah, I think we got a shot against Skynet this year.
I think so too, and I agree with everything you're saying, Rich. With looking at my own team, I think my draft, my year all depends on how much of an impact J.K. Dobbins has on the Ravens. I think if he could take over somewhere, along the share with Ingram and get maybe 51%, I think I'm going to have a pretty good year. If not, I'm going to be hurting out of my second running back spot until I can find someone on either through trade or on the waiver wire.
Yeah, and with my team, I felt pretty good early with McCaffrey. I'm not the biggest Godwin fan. To me, I would have liked someone else there. I think my wide receivers have some potential, but I really like the guys I got later on. I think CeeDee Lamb, after a couple of weeks, might really find his footing and become a really quality wide receiver, and then, I'd probably elevate him into a starting role. And the rookies, I like to draft a couple of rookies. You never know. There's always one or two of them that break out and just have a ridiculously good season. And I feel like we're always talking about it. And if you're in any kind of keeper or dynasty league, these guys become even more valuable. So I like to sprinkle them in my draft board. Marcus, what are your thoughts about your team?
I like my team overall. A few players, I'm just hoping they can stay healthy or have a breakout season. With Mike Evans, I'm hoping that offense comes on the field and puts up points with Tom Brady. Kyler Murray, I'm hoping for him to break out. Justin Jefferson, I'm hoping for him to have a good rookie season. Henry, Hawkinson, hoping for them to stay healthy. I'm hoping Jones has a good season. Clyde Edwards, I think he will, but still, he's unproven in the NFL. So there's a lot of hope on my team. I don't have the proven people like Russell Wilson, who is just going to come in and put up numbers. But overall, I think my team is good. I think he has potential to be great, and I'm pretty satisfied with it. I think it could be better if the computers weren't just drafting whatever. But overall, I think I did pretty good. Same with you guys, too.
Yeah, I think we all had some pretty great drafts in this mock. And next week, we're going to get to really put our skills to the test. We have over at interstateofgreen.com the start of a Dynasty League, right, Rich? That's what we're officially starting next week. Mm-hmm. With our group of writers. You can check out their stuff at interstateofgreen.com. And we'll be doing that draft live on this show. Live to tape, right? Live like we're doing it, but we're not streaming it. I guess I could stream it, in theory.
I think we should tape it. Because I think we're, based on how long we went with 8 computers, we're probably just gonna cut it in half and give you half.
Give you a
now
couple.
And half later.
That's true. So we'll be doing this next week. If you have any thoughts about how this mock draft went, please leave a comment in the player below. Or, of course, you can fire away on Twitter at Daily2Dynasty, at Seaglorbs94, at Coda522, at John Hazlett475, and at EMTaylor29. But this has been a real fun show. I love mock draft season. We're a month away from football. The testing's going great. Players are negative. It's all in all looking like it's going to be honky-dory for the start of the NFL season, which makes me very excited. So, guys, until next week, thank you guys, everybody, so much for watching, listening, subscribing, liking in the player, commenting, leaving voicemails at anchor.fm/daily to dynasty. We have a lot of fun doing the show, and we look forward to talking to you next week.